Windows class 227, page 136. Like the oraculum itself, the unreadable consonantal text was processed into the vocal text that Moses enunciated to the children of Israel. So there was this unreadable consonantal text, which of course is the letters of the Torah. They don't have vowels, as we already discussed. And it was Moshe Rabbeinu who processed the consonantal text into a vocal text because he taught in Ohel Moed the correct reading of the Pesukim, right? So he read the Pesukim to the Jewish people, and thus he transformed the unreadable consonantal text into a readable text. As with the first tablets, and this is similar to the oraculum itself, because the oraculum or the original Torah, it has to be processed into language. So again, when you process it into language, there's a transformation taking place there, right? As with the first tablets, Moses breaks the consonantal text, thereby giving it articulation and meaning. So the Luchot HaRishonot, they're broken, right? By Moshe Rabbeinu. And in a sense, Moshe Rabbeinu breaks the consonantal text, which is unreadable, and that's what it is. And it has a certain level of meaning that transcends common human thought. The consonantal text does, but you need to break it in order to bring it down to common human thought, which is a readable text, thereby giving it articulation and meaning. There are two classes of reading, said Rabbi David ibn Abi Zimra, the Radbaz. One spiritual and another corporeal, so that whoever can understand either of these levels will be able to understand. Right, so my father associates the spiritual with the consonantal and the corporeal with vocalized text. At the consonantal level, there is a different spiritual reading of the Torah without the articulation of words, in contradistinction to the corporeal text in the mode of the articulation of words. The corporeal reading, excuse me, the corporeal reading pertains to the things of man and serves as a basis for the legal dimension of the law. It could be like in Olam Haba. Maybe it's not the vocalized text that we use. Maybe in Olam Haba it's a consonantal text, right? But in Olam Hazeh, we need the legal dimension of the law. So we need to be able to vocalize it so that we understand, le'ot al yadecha, right? Impurity and purity, tameh, tahor, right? Right? Prohibition and permission, innocence and guilt, as well as the other laws of the Torah. It's very interesting, Radbaz. The vocal text which the children of Israel heard is the basis of their covenantal relationship with God, right? Because you can only have a berit on a vocal text, because how can you have a berit on a consonantal text which is not subject to normal human thought, right? In Hebrew, hearing, Shema, is intimately associated with comprehension. Shema means to hear, but it also means to understand in Hebrew. Conception. Thus, once heard by the children of Israel and processed in their minds, the vocal text is in fact the oral law. It's very interesting. So the vocal text is in fact the oral law. That's interesting. The commentary, pirush, of the original scriptural text. So by vocalizing the text as Moshe Rabbeinu did, now you have a Torah shebe'al peh. You have the original, so to speak, original commentary. So the Torah shebe'al peh starts with vowels. That's the way I understand it. It's actually fascinating. And that's what the Torah Sheba'al Peh starts with Moshe Rabbeinu teaching Bnei Israel and Ohel Moed how to read those consonants. From the point of view of the second grammatical person, this pirush is the revelation of Scripture. Huh. Because you're speaking it, right? Now, first person, Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking the words, and by speaking the words and vocalizing the words, he's giving a pirush to the words. Again, because you're allowing the second person to understand what you're saying, right? Otherwise, there is no second person. For the first person to have a second person, the first person has to address the second person in a way that the second person can understand. And that's only through the vocalization of the text. Again, from the point of view of the second person, the oral law is not the exteriority of Scripture. On the contrary, the unprocessed script itself becomes the exteriority of the text, totally inaccessible and totally inexhaustible. That's amazing. So when you just have the letters, the black letters on the white parchment, that becomes the exterior level of the Torah, and that's what you see. You see v'chol ha'am ro'im et ha'kolot. You see it. That's the first thing you come in contact with, right? It's inaccessible, right? Until we provide the vowels, or until Moshe Rabbeinu provides the vowels. This lay mental or mental law, however, is projected into the script, right? And so that you can read it. From the perspective of both the first and second persons, the vocal text is a point of contact between the mental law and the unprocessed script. Very interesting. That really is interesting. It's amazing. I'm going to read that again. The vocal text, the vowels, is the point of contact between the mental law, the Torah Sheba'al Peh, and the unprocessed text. So again, it's an amazing. I'm sorry I keep saying this. But it's an amazing concept. So the Torah Sheba'al Peh starts with vowels. I know I said that already, but it's just an amazing. The close relationship between the vocal text and the oral law was excellently explained by the Ibn Abi Zimra. Like the oral law, the vocalization of Scripture is in fact a pirush commentary, as we said, right? Right, because the minute you give the vowels, you're also explaining the words. Both of them too are transmitted orally. So, and here's a quote from the Radbaz. The vocalization and prosody marks of Scripture, the Tamim, were transmitted orally. Like the rest of the oral law, which is a pirush commentary to the written law, right? In the same fashion, the vocalization and prosody marks are a pirush to the written law, right? So both are transmitted orally, and both are a pirush of the consonants. It is known that without vocalization, the consonantal text has many possible senses, different combinations, and opposite meanings. And that's why, of course, you need the Torah Shebichtav to make the text operable. You need the vowels to make the text operable. And then the Berit is an on an operable text. But again, perhaps in Olam Haba, there are other meanings to the consonants that the human mind in Olam Hazeh can't quite understand. And that, yeah, and in Olam Haba, there may be other dimensions, and likely there are. Okay.